Welcome. My name is Peace Osigwe, and in this activity, I'll be discussing applying classroom rules and procedures. I was able to observe three different elementary classes, and three teachers to see how they integrate these rules and procedures in the class, and how students follow instruction, rules, and procedures in the class while the teacher is teaching. So in the course of this video, I'll be reading some of the things that I observed and I wrote down. When I walked into grade 2A, I saw the classroom rules posted on one of the doors of the class. At first, when I walked in, the students were all seated on their desks in a square shape of 4 tables with 4 students on each table. The teacher was teaching math on money, and she was teaching division sentence. She used questions to involve students. The teacher was standing in front of the class, very close to the board, where she wrote down questions and problem on division, and students trying to solve division problem on money, and she asked students to brainstorm for answers. The students were involved in the class activity, and while most students listened quietly, few students were distracted. As I observed from the corner of the classroom, 2 students were talking to each other. At first, the teacher didn't notice the students, but when she saw them, she simply called them and asked them to answer questions that was on the board. This strategy she used was trying to call the students to order and trying to make them follow up what the class is doing. When the students were talking, they were distracted, and the teacher calling them and asking them to answer some of the questions that was on the board was a strategy this teacher used to get the student back. The teacher called on a particular student to give division sentence for a question on the board because she was consistently talking and she refused to answer the question on the board. So what the teacher did was to call her and encourage her when she saw that the girl kept quiet because she couldn't answer the question that was on the board. So the teacher called her and encouraged her and motivated her to answer the question, and she said, I want you to know that you can do this. She kept on telling the students you can try, and in the process of trying to encourage the student was able to speak out. And I see this as a positive strategy that the teacher uses to get the student back on track to the class, because the student was not following and she wasn't paying attention, but when the teacher called her to order and made her answer the question, she was able to follow up. This was a good strategy, and I liked about the classroom that the teacher used. She encouraged her students, and she believed that the student can do it. When the student refused to answer the question, I heard the teacher say, come on, you can do this, just give it a try because I know you can answer this. This motivated the child, and she spoke with confidence, and she was able to give a division sentence to the problem. When the teacher was done teaching the lesson, she called the class helpers to distribute the math workbook. This made other students to be seated while the 2 boys that were the class helpers to distributed the workbook. Students worked on their desks independently. Some of the students were distracted, and the teacher had a positive way she used to call them back to the class and have them pay attention. One of the students was trying to put on his shoes, and he was playing with the shoes. The teacher noticed this and called on him and asked him to stop. She said, I need you to concentrate, and he did listen to the teacher. So I saw that the teacher and the students, they have this, they're able to communicate with each other. The students listen to their teacher when the teacher gave them instruction about obeying the rules, even though they were distracted at a point. But once the teacher called them to order, they were able to follow back and to follow on what the class was doing. So, and then one of the students shouted from her seat, this is easy, this is easy. And because when the sheet was shared for them to start working, she shouted, this work is easy. And I heard the teacher said, I know it's easy, but I need you to sit down, write it in your book. I want to see you write it in your book. You know, I love the way this teacher used some of her strategies to calm the students down and put them to work. And I like the fact that the students were following, even though sometimes as little kids that they will try to fall back on the rules or the procedures. But once they are being called upon, they were able to follow up. And then later on, a student was also speaking without permission. And I like the way the teacher called him and asked him, what is the right thing to do? That was the question the teacher asked. The teacher said, what is the right thing to do if you have a question or you want to say something? And the student said, I should raise up my hand to talk. And the teacher said, you know that you know better and you should follow it up. One thing I like about the teacher is that she made students to see what they have done wrong and what they are supposed to do right. And she brings them to order. She calls them to order and they follow immediately. This was one thing I observed in this class. Another class that I observed was another second grade class, this grade 2B now. So when I walked into this class, I saw the classroom on the class front door. As I walked into the class, the students were all doing quiet reading on that text, and on the other side of the class was the ELL student with the ELL teacher. We were doing a spelling test, and shortly after, the teacher signaled the class monitor to call the students to the carpet. So table after table, the class monitor went table after table to call each of the students to the carpet. And when the student got to the carpet, they seated quietly until the teacher asked them to read the morning message. Permit me to briefly read the morning message. And it says, good morning. Today is Wednesday, June 7th, 2017, day 2. We have PE, meditation, and our gratitude journal to fill. Last night, I made 200 ounces of food for my son, Matthias, and I divided it for 5 days. How many ounce will he eat each day? Yesterday, we worked on connecting the environment. How did you do that? Today, let's remember to express ourselves creatively. Love, Miss Maria. The morning message has some questions that the teacher has already arranged in the morning message. And after the student had finished reading, the student took turns to raise their hands and to respond to those questions. I like the strategy that the teacher used. She then put some workbook on the board where she is teaching text features. Some of the text features like the glossary, the table of content, bold print, heading, index, visible support, subheading. And then she asked students to think in their head, then turn and talk to their partner what they think these text features are. This strategy allowed the students to be able to reason and share ideas on what the text features are. So each student thought about it and they shared with their partner. And this allows students to share ideas, and it brings about collaboration and communication. So the teacher called the student back by saying, all eyes on me, and all the students turned back immediately to her. And one thing I liked is that she was able to get her class to order, and her time management was also perfect. She asked students to share what they have discussed with their partners. Students took turns to share, and she asked students to use 2 fingers to indicate if they understand what they have shared, and 1 finger to indicate if you have 1 finger up, which means you don't understand it, but if you have 2 fingers, that means you understand it. So some of the students had two fingers and some of them had one finger. And this made the teacher to go back and then to teach the test contents, test features once more. And she was able to make the student understand it better. She had worksheet for the students and she read the worksheet, and the worksheet was on the text feature that they were doing. So she told the students to read a book when they are done with their worksheet. And there was one thing she said, do not come to my table if you are done. If you are done, just put your workbook on the table and read a book. She had a way of making sure that the students are busy even though they were done. So she dismissed the students to the desk by using birthday months. She said, if your birthday is between January to April, go to your seat. Between May to August, go to your seat. September to December. This was the strategy she used to make sure that students went back to their seat in small groups without causing chaos. And the students actually followed these directions. Using these strategies allowed the students to go back to their seat in small groups. Students left to their desks with their sheets where they worked independently, and the teacher walked around to see what students were doing. I noticed that two students were talking, and when the two students were talking, I noticed that it was the ELS student that was asking one of the students to explain what they were supposed to do. The teacher cited them and she came and intervened and she helped to explain to the ELS student what they were supposed to do. The student that was trying to help the ELS students to understand their tasks, I see that they are following one of the classroom norms that said help others when they are in need. So I see that the students in this class were following most of their rules in the class. So in the process of walking, a student shouted, "I don't have an eraser." And the teacher said, just cross it out. If you don't have an eraser, you don't need to shout, you don't need to say anything. Just cross it out and continue writing. And looking at the class rules, I noticed that students were following most of the rules. They raised their hands to ask questions and they took turns to share ideas. And I also noticed that the teacher called upon one of the students to move her desk closer to her. And when I gave a close observation, I noticed that the student seems to be a struggling kid. So the teacher was reading out the question to her and asking her to try and remember what text features are. She used example in trying to connect the student back to understand. Then there's this particular student that kept on standing up and walking to his bag, and the teacher noticed and asked him, "What are you doing? Why are you going to your bag? What are you looking for?" He said, "I'm looking for sharpener to sharpen my pencil." And the teacher simply said, "Okay, come have a pencil that is sharpened." And that was how she solved it. She was always on track to provide the solution to any problem that the students were raising up that would make them to go against the class rules while class is going on. So the students were not too much disorganized or had bad behaviors, and the teacher maintained a positive and polite way of reacting to all students. I actually enjoyed watching the class and how the teacher and the students behaved towards each other. She was really working together with her students, connecting them back and making them to pay attention in the class. And she had a way of making the students work collaboratively and individually. It was a good strategy. Another class that I observed was grade 3. So it's end of the year and the teachers in grade 3 are planning on having cookie sales with the students. Based on the lessons they are doing for the week, they were learning capital resources where you have to produce something and sell to generate money. The students were all seated in groups of 4 and had the teacher explain the procedure and process of making and selling cookies during recess and lunch to other students on campus. The class was very interactive that I saw. So students were busy making out plans on the type of cookies they will make and the name they will give to their store. It was full of collaboration, communication, and creativity. The classroom was placed a corner of the class, and when I saw the classroom, the students were actually following most of the classroom, because when I observed the students, I saw that they were in order, they were collaborating, they respected each other, they were participating in the activity, and there was no much movement or disorder. They were coordinated, and they were so excited to do the activity. They had positive attitude, and they were all working together and collaboratively. They were not shouting or moving about, but they were in their groups and reasoning how they could make the activity a success. I think in this class, students were well behaved. They followed rules and listened to the instruction after the teacher gave them. And the teacher did not have hard time trying to call students in order. It was interesting to see students acting in a well behaved manner in this class, and I actually enjoyed this grade 3 and the projects that they were making, based on the fact that they were trying to raise money on their cookies. So they followed the instruction, the directions. They made names for their cookie store. They decided on the type of cookie they were going to make, and they decided on the time they would sell it. They decided on the quantity they will make, and I saw interaction, I saw collaboration, I saw students that were creative thinkers, and they were reasoning rather than disturbing the class or moving around. They shared ideas, and I like the fact that the teacher was able to get the students to work together, to get the students to work without being distracted and any other things that can make the student to fall out from following the class rules. The students were actually following the class rules. That was one thing I observed. Applying classroom rules and procedures sometimes might be difficult, but it's the joy of every teacher to see that students are following these rules. And observing these 3 classes, I noticed that the teachers are really trying their best to put their students in order, and students, in their other hands, are also trying to keep some of those rules, although some of them at a point might try to shift back from this rule. But one thing I liked about it is when they were called back, they came back on track, and they were able to fit into the activity of the class. Thank you. I hope this makes meaning. Thank you.